Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. I'm a bit confused. Now, a few weeks ago, Robert Myer Burnett, who I have issues with, was on Midnight's Edge, and he said the next episode of Star Trek, Episode 8, was going to feature the Guardian of Forever from the City of the Edge of Forever, and they were going to absolutely destroy Star Trek canon. Was what he implied. He didn't actually say it. And I thought, oh my god, and I didn't want to watch it. I just put off watching it, procrastinated for so long, and then wasn't even the episode. No, it was not involved. It was just a story about Book's brother and the Emerald chain or whatever, and it wasn't that interesting. And I was kind of disappointed in a way because I was expecting a giant disaster, and it was just a kind of average, not well written, giant plot hole episode of Discovery. So I thought, fine, they were wrong. Midnight's Edge, he's part of that sort of fandom menace group. They're often wrong about stuff. They create rumours for clicks sometimes. They also report real rumours that they believe, but I'm pretty sure some of them, they're all different people, so you can't say they're all responsible for what individuals in that group do. But some of them just make stuff up, and they just find reasons to have fault with Star Trek just so they can get videos out for the base to watch, for the people who hate it to watch, like, you know, me. So then the next episode, that's in the next episode. I'm like, yeah, right. And then we actually start watching it, and there is a portal to a different time, and there's a person guarding it, but it's not the Guardian of Forever. It's not on that planet. It's nothing like it, nothing to do with it. So I'm like, well, he got that really wrong. So whoever gave him that clue didn't know what they were talking about, or they were really grasping or vague, or just didn't know anything about the episode. So I thought, fine, whatever. And then I heard him today on Midnight's Edge episode Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Star Trek Discovery Season 8, what's wrong with me? Season 3, Episode 8 and 9. Review, comment, discussion, whatever they did. And he said, he was going through and he was saying, oh, it's the Guardian Forever from the original teleplay that he did. I'm like, I've never read the original teleplay. Was it a man in like a 1940s suit with a paper sitting in a deck chair next to a door? I never heard that, but I never read the original. There was a book of the original teleplay and a couple of different versions, I think, leaked online or something. So I just never read any of them because I didn't care. I liked the original, and Harlan Ellison just seemed like a huge queenie bitch. He had nothing good to say about anyone. And from what I heard, some of the things that he did in the episode were wrong and didn't work for Star Trek. So apparently he wasn't smart enough to understand what the show he was writing for, but then blamed the show for then changing the script and the story to fit the show that he was writing for. He wasn't just writing his own story, he was writing for the show. You're supposed to write to spec. So I never had much respect for him because all he did was bitch about stuff, and he just seemed to be living on fumes of his former successes and on the Star Trek drama he was creating out of that. But yeah, so I had to look at the comic book because I've got the comic book because he did a comic adaptation of his original teleplay. It says there, the original teleplay. And I've looked through it. I haven't read the damn thing, but I've looked through it, and the Guardian Forever appears to be a bunch of statues of men who speak and like force field of light which they go through. So I'm like, well, that's not a man sitting in a deck chair. Like, was that an early version? Was that a later draft? Like, what version is that? It's not the original teleplay, which he said it was. And I'm like, is he just making that up, hoping that people won't know because they haven't read the original teleplay and they won't know that that's actually not how it's depicted? Like, why would he say that? Why would he lie? It's just really weird. So I thought, well, maybe this is a later version. So I couldn't find the book. Obviously, I can't get it transported to me in a second. So I listened to the audio book of the book, the making of, or the original teleplay of the City of Edge of Forever. And I had to sit through 2 hours and 40 minutes. I swear to God, I'm not joking. 2 hours and 40 minutes of Harlan Ellison bitching about Gene Roddenberry. Now, I admit I'm a Star Trek purist. I'm a bit of, I love Gene Roddenberry. I love what he created. I understand he didn't create it alone. He didn't create it in a vacuum, and he took a lot of credit for a lot of things. He became like the god of Star Trek. I think that actually helped Star Trek become more legendary than sort of all the people who actually So I do get that other people were involved and they deserve credit as well as Gene Roddenberry. And you can question some of the things he did in his life, but what he created was brilliant. And I know he didn't create it alone. The other people that were involved and contributed, Gene Kuhn, for example, he always gets ignored. He died before Star Trek got really big on the convention scene, I think. So, and he just wasn't in that scene. So he never really got the credit he deserved. But I listened to it, and after the 2 hours and 41 minutes of Harlan Ellison bitching about Gene Roddenberry and just... because there are criticisms of him that he rewrote the teleplay so he could win an award. And he was saying, well, that didn't happen. I can prove it because the person who told that story said they met me in a bar and I told them that. I'm like, and he's like, I don't drink, I never drank. And I'm like, well, I don't drink, I never drink. I'm in bars all the time. And he may have just been confused with a restaurant or something. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, that's the really weak excuse. So I'm thinking maybe he's a bit dodgy. I think he's kind of known as the biggest whining bitch of all science fiction writers, but good writer. But just personality-wise, he's just impossible to deal with. I've never heard anyone say anything positive that wasn't a story of drama and peril when dealing with Harlan Ellison. So I found that all insulting and offensive. And he was insulting me the whole time because he's saying, oh, you Star Trek loyalists who just, kiss Gene's ass and, perpetuate all these lies and all this stuff. And I'm like, you're talking about me right now. I know you're trying to bait me from the grave. He's dead and he's doing it for an audiobook, but he's trying to bait me. So here's your response, Harlan. So yeah, I get to the actual 2 hours 41 minutes later, I get to the actual reading of the teleplay, and it takes 10 minutes to get to the Guardian Forever, and it is exactly as described in the book. It is a bunch of statues. There's a big city Crystal City in the mountains and Stone City in the mountains, which is just what's left of a city from another civilization, and a bunch of statues. And then they start talking and they say, we're the Guardians of Forever, or I'm the Guardian of Forever, one of them speaks. And then one of the people jumps through this beam of light, which is the portal, and yeah, it's just a beam of light, exactly like it's in the book. And I'm like, well, what version was Robert Myer Burnett talking about? Unless... because I know it was rewritten a couple of times by a couple of different people, and there was some conjecture about that, because Gene took credit for it. And he did exaggerate things like how much over budget it would have been to shoot the script that Harlan wrote. And Harlan was really ridiculous about that. He was saying, his script went over by 600 or something, and he said 6,000, so everything else he said must be wrong. I'm like, yeah, that was his script, not what yours would have been projected at. That's what he was talking about. Your projected script would have been a lot over. And he did exaggerate it over time, but there's also inflation. We're talking decades here. So I couldn't take anything he said seriously. He just seemed like a total bitch. And I don't know if there was another draft, because I know there's another writer who did one before. Gene probably put some finishing touches to it. And I think the most insulting thing that I hated about what Harlan said was he was going on about Gene's immature, childish, utopian vision of Earth, like how ridiculous, like there wouldn't be murderers and drug runners on the Enterprise and stuff like this, which is what he put in the script. I swear to God, there's originally, I think Scotty was supposed to be selling the drugs, someone said, but it was another crew member. Whether he changed that or someone else changed that, I think maybe I don't know if he did a second draft, but I have to research this a little bit further. But either way, it's not the original teleplay. So Robert Myer Burnett was saying, they thought they were being smart by using the original Guardian Forever from the original teleplay. Like that would be canon, or like they keep using Cage references and things from the Cage instead of stuff from the original series somehow, because pilot was new. None of it makes any sense. And what they were right about their criticism, that it is ridiculous. No one questions who this person is, how it happens. This is magic. This is not science fiction. It's a soap opera. It's a science fantasy soap opera. It's just magic. You got Deus Machina, or whatever you call it, where the sphere data is merged into Discovery now, can just answer and solve any problem. And just any, like in Picard, they've got this magic device that can fix anything no matter what. Just, there's so many problems. But my throat is really dry. I just don't know what Robert Myer Burnett was talking about. They didn't use the city at the Guardian Forever. They didn't use it. Not from the original teleplay, not from the original series. I don't know why he's saying that. I don't know if he's trying to save face because he got it wrong. He heard a rumour, he repeated it, and it was wrong. Yeah. So I'm just going to go because I just sort of wanted to comment on that because I thought that was curious. And listening to that 2 hours and 40 minutes of Hale and Ellison bitching about how stupid Gene Roddenberry was and how bad and ridiculous the show was because it was immature and just so insulting. And I'm like, there's no way you should have been writing for Star Trek. You should have been writing for Discovery because you hate Star Trek and you hate what it stood for. You hate the idea of it. You are so cynical and nasty and conceited that you couldn't conceive of that sort of world where people aren't like you, and that things could get better. So, yeah. I'm just going to leave that there. When I actually read the novel and listen to that full teleplay, I might do a review and compare it to the original episode for the fun of it, but after 2.5 hours of listening to him go on like that, I couldn't listen to the whole thing. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks.